Hey everyone, we're here with Brendan Gutenschwager, BG on the scene. Hey Brendan, you are in Minneapolis right now, right outside of this verdict that just came down. Can you just give us a quick, scope of the scene? What's going on right now? What happened right after the verdict? Obviously, three guilties. And I don't know, was the crowd surprised? What was their just initial reaction?
Yeah, so they had a pretty big crowd that was gathered here in the hours leading up to the verdict, really, especially in that last hour, because they announced that it was going to come in this afternoon. So everybody was really crowded outside the courthouse there. And as soon as as soon as the judge had taken the stand to announce that there was going to be a verdict, everybody kind of quieted down in the crowd. And then somebody that either had a stream or was listening to it somehow was kind of announcing it to the crowd as it came in. The very first guilty verdict of the three, everybody immediately just erupted into cheers. They were all celebrating. Leading up to that, nobody really knew exactly what was going to happen. I think that people had mixed ideas of whether it was going to be a guilty verdict or not. But then the guilty verdict had come in on that first one. You can hear in the background there's a caravan of cars that have been honking in celebration of this. Then the other two were announced very quickly within a few seconds after that. And the crowd, a lot of people had burst into tears. There were some that were just cheering, celebrating, chanting George Floyd's name. A few people took to the megaphones to give some brief speeches out there. The girlfriend of George Floyd, Courtney Ross, she also spoke outside and gave some remarks too. She was in tears after that initial announcement of the verdict. So, really just like a lot of tears, celebration, I would say. I have heard some people saying this isn't the end, this is just the beginning, that, this was just one of many cases that they've been obviously protesting for and looking at, but it was a very, very significant one. So a lot of people do seem to be out celebrating today for that.
Brendan, I want to show people your Twitter because I know you got to go. There's a lot going on there. Folks aren't familiar with you. You are an independent journalist and you put yourself in a lot of really precarious situations. So just a quick thank you and make sure everybody knows that there are links in the description for how people can follow you. It sounds like you're going to probably be doing what you normally do, which is uploading video as you can onto your Twitter account. So I just wanted to get you real fast on my channel so people can get to the description, get the links, they can follow you, see what happens there in Minneapolis tonight. I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit briefly before you go about what happened to you recently, because I think a lot of people may not realize, well, maybe they do at this point, how dangerous it can be for journalists who are out there, especially independent journalists who don't necessarily have the affordability for security, and you're working by yourself in a lot of these cases, trying to just get the information out there, besides the fact that there's all kinds of speech suppression with what you're trying to do. But run us through what happened, because you were assaulted recently at a protest, were you not?
Yeah, and it was a group of people. They had singled me out at previous Detroit area protests, and this specifically relates to me having covered the Capitol. There's been this misconception, and this is something that has constantly happened, not just with the Capitol coverage, but with so many events I've covered, that the press thing makes people think that that's an endorsement of the event. And even though I do a wide variety news, protest related things that are, various different news stories. In the Capitol, January 6th, that was just one of many. But this group has convinced themselves that I had something to do with it, thinking that I was basically, somebody like an insurrectionist. And that's obviously not true. And it's just this wild conspiracy theory. I don't know why they've gotten this into their minds, especially when I've covered so many different events, including events of this own group many, many times before in Detroit. It was a real shock, too, because the Detroit protests, by and large, have been peaceful. That was otherwise a peaceful protest. They had just been marching. It's an anti-eviction march, and this basically they have a protest security that kind of goes around on the perimeter of the march as they go through, and they decide who is and isn't allowed to be there to film, who is and isn't allowed to report on it. And they basically deemed me somebody that's not allowed to report on it, not allowed to be there, even for entirely peaceful marches. It's not like this is, Portland or Seattle. No windows were being smashed. It was nothing like that. So it was a real shock in that sense, but that's basically the gist of what had happened there.
Okay, Brendan, anything else you want to add before you go about what's looking like right now? What has the scene changed at all? Is it staying pretty much the same as it has been?
Pretty much the same. Yeah, people have been celebrating. Like I said, they just began marching, so now they're on the move through downtown Minneapolis, moving away from the courthouse. Other than that, it sounds like it'll be most likely a pretty peaceful march here. People have been calling for that with the speeches outside the courthouse here, and so that's what it's looking like right now.
All right, Brendan, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Stay safe. And again, everybody check out the links in the description and follow Brendan. You get all of his live updates. Take care of yourself, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Allison.
Bye. All right, everyone. I'm going to keep this really quick, just wrap it up, actually. Thanks for tuning in. It's just sort of my little addition. I figured that I would give a little bit of perspective. I know Brendan works really hard, and give his work a shout out. I don't really have a whole lot to add at this point. Obviously, not a legal expert. I've covered protests and riots before, but I'm looking to see if maybe one of my old colleagues would come on and do a live stream about what that kind of stuff is like. But hey, maybe tonight I'll stay peaceful. I'm not totally sure what comes of this. So I figured that would be the best option, would get to hear from somebody yourself like Brendan, who's out there in the middle of it all. And I think Brendan does a pretty good job. He's really level-headed. He's not trying to push a bias one way or the other. It's unfortunate. I don't know. He was kind of breaking up there, but if you didn't hear, he was essentially assaulted by protesters, I believe in Detroit, and, could have been pretty badly hurt. So just goes to show that it can be a dangerous job. And again, for an independent journalist who is basically crowdfunding his entire job, he doesn't work for a big corporate organization, and doesn't have the kind of security that I was given when I would cover that kind of stuff. It's important, I think, to support people like Brendan. So definitely go check him out. And if somebody said they didn't see links in the description, so if you don't see those, I'm going to add them as soon as I end this broadcast, which is going to be pretty soon. And then just go check him out if you haven't seen it at this point, because I will be honest, I'm learning some new software here. So anyway, okay, I'm going to run, guys. Take care of each other. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.